Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, the Too Opinionated podcast could really use your help. And it's easy, it's free. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, imdb.com, named us a top 100 podcast. We came in at number 82. That's a big deal because there's 15 million podcasts and growing. So to be named to anybody's top 100 list, pretty big deal for us. And the way you can help is to go to imdb.com, look up the Too Opinionated podcast, and that's it. Just bringing our page up. That traffic really helps us out. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. All we ask is that you subscribe. It's also free, but that really helps us to attract these amazing guests that we keep bringing on the program. And that's it. 2 easy ways for you to support us, and we would really appreciate the help. Now let's get to that interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I get to welcome back our good friend, author Peggy Gerber. So welcome, Peggy.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
You know, this is number 3, if you can believe that.
Yeah,
Because we had you on initially with the open contract challenge.
that's
And
right.
then it was the what was the book? The Big Indignity, which I
Right.
loved. Yeah, that was
Well, thank
that
you. Thank
absolutely
you.
loved that one, the poetry, and it was so good. And today you've got another one out, and this one came out in November.
Yeah, the end of November.
Yeah. So it's pretty new, and it's called Once Upon a Time Machine, which
Yes.
I'm so excited about. Um, Tell me a little bit about what the book's about. And if I remember right, I think we talked a little bit about this one the last time you were, I can't remember if
Yes, I
you were
was
writing or you were
I
planning.
was just in the process of writing it. Yes.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit.
Okay,
What's
so
upon the time?
so it is a book of short stories, some very short, some, longish. Um, And the stories are kind of like they're speculative fiction, kind of in the style of The Twilight Zone or Black Mirror. But I kind of stink at describing my own books. But Literary Titan wrote me an editorial review, which I think describes the book perfectly. So if you don't mind,
Yeah. Let's
all
hear
right, so
it.
this is from Literary
Okay.
Titan. Okay. Once Upon a Time Machine is a dazzling anthology of short stories that traverse genres from time travel to alien encounters, with themes ranging from heartbreak to whimsical absurdity. The collection captures human emotions in fantastical scenarios, like a grieving mother rewriting history and saving Aaron, or the humorous alien misunderstanding a necessary exclusion. These tales brim with creative twists that keep you wondering what might come next. One thing that really stood out is how these stories manage to be relatable while being wildly imaginative. In Saving Aaron, the protagonist's grief over her child's death feels raw and visceral. Her desperate attempt, her desperate use of a time machine to undo her pain raises haunting questions about morality and consequences. I found myself heartbroken and conflicted, wondering if I would make the same choice. The story's bittersweet resolution stuck with me long after I closed the book. So I think that's like a perfect description
That's
of
a
the book.
really good description of the
It
book.
really is.
You know, it reminded me, when I was growing up, and we got cable in the late 70s, I think, and a lot of the shows that they were showing in reruns on cable were like the Twilight Zones or the
Right,
Outer
right,
Limits, and
right,
even like Alfred Hitchcock Presents, they would show in reruns
right.
when I was younger, and I always loved those because it every
Too.
episode left you thinking. It's the episode, you enjoy watching the episode, but then afterwards it kind of leaves you thinking, pondering it.
Right, exactly,
And that's
exactly.
exactly how I felt going through this book. So in that way, for me, similar to those shows, because every story, it was kind of like it lingered, It stayed with
Right.
you after you had read it. I love the story about the mom going through the time machine, and she's got the gun, at first,
Yeah.
and
So
I
so
love that.
that's my most controversial story. People have a lot of opinions on it. It's about this woman who's going, her child was hit by a driver who was texting, and so she considers it a murder. Um, and she's going through complicated grief. She just can't get over it. She can't get back to normal no matter what she does. And then she hears about a time machine that's like in its earliest stages. But it's not being funded. And so you might wonder, like, why wouldn't someone fund a time machine? You'd think everybody would come and
You
fund it.
think?
Well, it has a restriction. You only have 7 seconds back in time. So nobody wants to fund it. But she has a lot of money from the lawsuit. So she funds it with the restriction that she's the first one to go back. But 7 seconds, what can you do in 7 seconds? She thinks and she thinks and she thinks. And even though killing someone is like 100% against everything she believes in, it's her son. And she figures it's a life for a life.
Yeah, but it
And
gets so much more complicated than that.
it does. It does. Yes.
And you can
Yes.
imagine, because you don't know at the start anyway, you don't really know about the other person or what
Right.
what was going on with them. So
Right.
it
Right.
gets messy. It gets
Right.
it gets messy, and I've been around people throughout my life that have been going through grief. I've been through grief
Right.
myself, and it really does raise that moral dilemma. If you had the
It does.
opportunity to stop the loss of someone you loved, but it would cost the life of somebody else, what would you do? And I think a lot of people, they may not want to say it, but they might lean to, well, I'd do anything I could to get my loved one back.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, if a parent has a child that, God forbid, needs a heart transplant,
Mm-hmm.
they pray for a heart. And essentially, what they're praying for is for another child to die. And it may not be at their own hands, but that is what they're praying for. And you can't blame them because children are everything.
That's right. That's right. No,
And
it,
we
it
can't,
really does raise those dilemmas. And I've
yeah,
always, this is what kind of sealed it for me. And it may not be right. It would, the temptation would be hard to ignore.
right,
But
right,
I really believe that everybody has kind of a destiny. And even if
right.
you try to change that destiny, the universe just kind of pulls you back into that. So what if you go back and you do this thing that kills somebody, and you do get your person back, but then does the universe say, well, that's not how it's supposed to go, and then you lose them again? And then what happens if you lose that person a second time, especially if it's pretty quick after you made that change? That's kind of
Right.
how I looked at it. And I think the fear of that and having to go back through all that grief, I don't know. I don't think I could do it.
Don't actually agree with that. I
Yeah.
think, in my mind, her son stays alive and she pays the consequences.
Yeah.
And
No, that's
there are a
right.
lot
The
of
story plays out
there
a
are
little
always
different. Yeah,
consequences.
that's right. But that was kind of the way when I was reading it, that was just in my head. Those were the thoughts that were kind of going through my head. I love the way, and I don't want to give it away, but I love the way that
Right,
you told the story, because there are, yes, you get them back, but there's consequences, and
right.
difficult ones, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, for sure.
yeah. So, but really enjoyed that one, and then I wanted to mention I really liked the woman that finds the craft in the backyard. I like
You
that.
know what? That's one of my favorite ones.
Well, tell that one. Where did that idea come from?
You know, most of my stories have a story behind it.
I
This
know.
one, no story. It just flew into my head. I don't know from where, but now that it's written, I have a backstory, which maybe I'll continue writing.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's kind of it gives you that option anyway.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does.
Do you have any designs to take these stories and expand on them?
You know what? I think that's the only one.
Yeah, yeah. I was
Yeah.
going to say because most of them kind of have a conclusion,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
but
Exactly.
you could probably do something with it if you really wanted to. But that one I thought
Right.
makes sense that you're at least considering continuing that.
Right. Right.
What was your favorite out of this group?
So, um, I really like Saving Aaron.
Yeah, yeah, me
And
too.
then the last story in the book, Metamorphosis of a Beauty Queen. I really like that one too.
My wife loved that one. That was her favorite out of
It's
the
another
book.
one. Consequences you could never have foreseen.
Yeah, yeah. What? How did that one come about? Because yeah, that's um, each story I think is kind of unique. They
Yeah.
the book. I mean, it you've got well, it's just weird stuff going on in each story.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pick genres, but they really kind of cross genres, but they're all just kind of they share that weirdness
Right.
commonality.
Right.
But yeah, Metamorphosis, that was her favorite.
I
She
mean,
couldn't
that's one of
remember
my
the name
favorites
of it.
too.
I was
Yeah.
asking her about it, and she's like, it was the last one. Well, to be honest, I was like, I think it's that one, but I wasn't sure until you said it, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
these things are things that happen to me. Like some of my shorter stories, my 100 words. Can I read one of them? Would you mind? Like a 100 word story?
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
short. Okay.
sure. Of course, you know that.
Oh,
Just that's what we're here for.
okay. So, well, this is a story behind the story behind the story. It's called What's Privacy? Okay. Desi had always been skeptical of internet devices. So when her husband asked for an Echo Dot for his birthday, she moaned, "Oh, please think of something else. You never know who might be listening." "I just want to listen to music when I shave," he pleaded. "Stop being so paranoid." Desi grudgingly relented, and they put the new gadget near the sink. A few days later, Desi noticed the device seemed to glow brighter each time she used the toilet. It made her skin crawl. When she started getting Facebook ads for kaopectate, Desi smashed the Echo Dot into a million pieces. And you know what? My husband wanted an Echo Dot for the bathroom so he could shave and listen to the news and listen to music. So we got one. And it's listening to
Everything.
everything you do. But it's kind of funny. When I originally wrote the story, I said she was getting ads for X-Lax, and the editor of the publication it was in, 101 words, said, "Oh, no, 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 no. Diarrhea is much funnier." And so, okay, I changed it.
Well, we've got a couple of those, but they're unplugged. Yeah, because they never stop listening.
You're exactly right. Yeah.
And I got some issues with that. It's convenient. It's nice to be able to listen to music or
Yeah.
sports or whatever,
Yeah.
but I don't know about that. I we ended up, we'll plug them in sometimes to listen to music, but most of the time we just keep them unplugged.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it is super convenient. I have mine plugged in most of the time,
Yep.
but it is super creepy sometimes that sometimes you'll have a conversation with someone and you'll see Facebook ads about what you talked about.
By the next day, you're getting ads.
Yeah,
And we get them
yeah.
like we've got one set close to the TV. It'll even pick up stuff off of there, and then we'll see
It
ads from
will.
that. Yeah.
It'll answer some of the questions from the TV. No, it will. It will. If there's somebody in the TV named Alexa, there you go.
Oh, all the time. We're always having to yell at that. It's not talking to you, Alexa.
Right, right. And then I have another story about a girl that accidentally clicks on an ad for adult diapers, and that's it. She just everything, the games on her phone,
Oh, I know.
um, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. There's just ads and ads for adult diapers. And now you don't even
That
have to click on it. All you have to do is hover.
that's all you got to do. If you leave
Yeah,
for more than a second,
yeah, yeah.
you're liable to get an ad. And you think they would get to the point now where it's it's not giving you ads because you purchase something, but the purchase is something that you might only get once a decade or something.
Right.
Like sometimes you buy something, you're not going to buy any more of that, because of the
Yeah,
way you use it. Uh, but the ads don't quite get that. So you start seeing the
that's
same,
right.
ads, and you're like, well, I don't need any more.
Right, right, right. Yeah. No, I mean, I get that every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's technology is great. And obviously we're making great use of it in some
Right.
but it's also a little out of hand and it can be scary,
It really can. Yeah,
and I think we all feel that, but we're also all kind of addicted to it.
we are. I
It's
mean, no,
affected. I talked to my daughter about this. It's affected us to the point that we're not reading like we used to because
yeah.
we're
No,
spending so
it's
much
true.
time on our phones or on the computer, and then you don't just actually pick up a book. And I think that's
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
definite negative.
You could spend hours on Instagram alone.
Oh, easy, and not even
Yeah.
realize it. You just look up in the days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's because they have the targeted things for you and they know what you're interested in. And you're like, okay, I'm going to go off now. Oh, wait a minute. I am interested in this.
yeah. It's. I mean, it's definitely it's there to pull you in, and I've
Yeah, it
been a
really
sucker for
is.
it many times.
Right. Right.
I try to because of what we do with the podcast. I try to stick with that. If I'm on social
Right.
media, it's for the podcast, and then avoid those time sucks so that I'm able to accomplish other things.
Right. Right.
I mean, you could say the same thing about video games. People lose
Yeah, for
a lot of
sure.
time
For
for that,
sure. Yeah.
which is why I love video games too, but I never play them because I don't want to donate the time.
Right.
I got other stuff I'd like to use that time for.
I'd say,
I don't know
we
what
only
you're
have
at.
a certain amount of time and you just can't waste that much of it.
No, and I think as you get older, it becomes more and more valuable to you.
For sure. Yeah.
When you're younger, you don't think about that stuff.
No, you don't. You think you have forever. You think nothing can ever go wrong. You think you're invincible.
You do. You do. I can tell you, you are not. So it's been out for a couple of months. It sounds like
Right.
the reviews have been good. What's
The
the
reviews have
response?
been great. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. Well, you're a known author now, which never hurts. It's not this
That
isn't
is
your first
true.
book. This is I know we've had you on for three. Is
No,
that
this
how
is the
many you've
third
had?
time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but you haven't written other ones, have you?
No, not in
Yeah, I didn't
between.
think so. I thought we'd had you for each one. I'm so glad you got into or you got this one done with the stories because I told you offline I love the poetry. I you do the self-deprecating humor so well,
Yes.
which is my type of
I
humor because I
do.
use that a lot myself. And
Right.
I love your poetry because it always makes me kind of chuckle. Sometimes it might bring
Right.
up other emotions too, but it always kind of makes me chuckle, and I love that because it's your poetry is very real. It's
Yeah.
stuff that all
Yeah.
of us go through as we get older.
Right. Right. Right.
But I remember talking about this one when you were just getting started, and I told you then I love that because it's stuff that's right up my alley. That's when I was
Yeah.
growing up.
Yeah.
That's the stuff I read. Love that
Right.
of
Right.
I always
And
like
I
the
also,
the
oh,
mystery of it. The
yeah.
just like each story, you're trying to figure it out. What's going on? And I always kind of
Yeah.
enjoyed that.
Right. And also, a couple of the things I did, I retold some fairy tales. One of the fairy tales that I think I hate the most is Rumpelstiltskin. Because when you think about it, here's this miller's daughter who has to spin straw into gold, or this king will murder her.
Yep.
And you're supposed to think that after that, she's going to live happily ever after with him. It's like, that doesn't make sense. And so I had to retell that one in a more realistic way.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that because yeah, at the time that those stories were written, and most fairy tales pretty dark, when you get to
Yeah,
the
most of them really dark.
really dark, and they're written at a time when there wasn't a lot of consideration given to the woman.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
It's true.
they're like, she'll be happy. She'll be happy with this.
Right,
What?
right,
But I think that happens a lot of times. It's it's based around that time period, and yeah, they didn't
right.
really care
Well, I
much
remember
for
my
the woman.
parents reading it to me when I was young, and I kind of liked the story okay. And then I read it to my kids, and I was like, oh my
Right.
gosh,
It's
what am I
full dark.
reading them?
I always thought I don't know if you ever watched the show Once Upon a Time, but it took a lot of those fairy tales and kind of Disneyed them up, but they
Okay.
kept them a little bit dark. Like they had Rumpelstiltskin on the show, and he was kind of terrifying. He was
Yeah.
he was kind of scary. Um, so they did kind of keep some of those elements. But I think a lot of people, you think Rumpelstiltskin, and all you really think about is a guy sleeping under a tree or something. You
Yeah.
don't think about the downside because most people maybe haven't even heard the whole story.
Pretty popular.
It is, and everybody loves a good fairy tale, but we like the more modern versions that
Yes, for
they've cleaned
sure.
them up a little
Yes.
bit. So I like that.
Yes.
I like that you've taken that because I don't know that we have a modern retelling of Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah, I mean, he was always pictured as the bad guy in the fairy tale, but he saved her life 3 times.
He did.
Yeah.
He was just misunderstood.
Yes. And then
Oh,
actually, so I have one story in the book that I'm pretty sure will become reality one day. The Golden
okay.
Death Pact.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yes.
that right. So that's a story about this woman who goes to her financial planner and she's 70 years old and he tells her, you know what? You don't have enough money to live, for very long, comfortably. You're
Right.
going to run out of money very quickly. And a new drug has been invented that lets people live to be 110, 120, and you're going to be living in poverty for 30 years. And I think, some of these drugs are coming out. I mean, people like Ozempic, for example,
Yeah.
it's keeping people's hearts. I'm not that I have anything to do with the company, but it might potentially keep people alive a lot longer. And then what's going to happen to Social Security? What's going to happen to Medicare? They're going to run out of money.
Well, it's a
And
real issue because
it's happening. It's
there's
happening
too
right
many of
now.
us. And if we're living
Yes.
longer, there's
Yes.
just going to be that much more. And we've got a limited number of resources.
That's right. So in the story, the government has a plan. It's called the Golden Death Pact, where they give you enough money to live very, very comfortably until you're 82 years old, and then you take a pill. And I kind of feel like that's going to happen.
I actually think that could happen. I mean, I'm sure I've always thought that at some point we'll go kind of like China and some of these places have done where they limit the number of children you're allowed to have. I could totally see that happening at some point, not because of anything other than we're just running out of resources. There's just not enough room
Yeah,
for all these people. So I could
right.
see that. But then the next step is that you've got this amount of time, you
Yeah.
know, we'll
I
help
mean,
you
people
live
are,
comfortably, but then you got to go.
that's right.
And then
I
what
mean, I kind of feel like if the
did,
government read this book, they'd say, wait, that's a
wait,
great idea.
did it occur to you that you could do like the sequel to that story would be someone, maybe a couple that's turning 82 together and they run. and they
Be
try
a
to.
great story.
I know there's your
Yeah.
people with that. They try to.
Yeah, they can have a whole underground for older people where you
Yeah,
can escape to. Oh, that's a good idea.
because I can guarantee you that that would happen. I don't know how successful it would be, but I guarantee
Right,
somebody would try
right,
to avoid having to take that pill.
right. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I know. Part of the reason I love your writing is because you do take a lot of stuff that's it's possible.
yeah,
It's just degrees of likeliness,
right, right,
but they're at least the majority of them are possible, and that makes them a little unsettling.
right. Well,
What's
writers write for a lot of different reasons. Some people want to make you laugh. Some people want to make you cry. Some people, just want you to fall in love with the romance. But to me, making people think, that's my goal.
Yeah, well, I think you accomplish it really well, and
Well,
not just
thank you.
this book, but the poetry books. They make you think some too, because even though you write them with a sense of humor, some of that stuff, it's kind of deeper thoughts.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
talking about your own mortality and stuff, and that
right,
that
right.
that can make you think a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? So now that you've got this one out, when you were writing it, did you have to pick and choose stories? Did you have other stories that didn't make this volume, or
Yes.
yeah, I
Yes.
figured so. What's the plan for those stories?
Well, so when I speak to people my age, I'll say, "Oh, when did you start writing?" "Oh, I've been writing since I'm 5 years old. I've been writing since, middle school." It's like, I've been writing since I became an empty nester. So not that long. And so my early stories are not fit for publishing.
Understand?
But
Yeah.
hopefully I get better and better as I go
Well, I'm
along.
sure you will, because yeah, that's a good point. You're so talented, but you're still learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? I'm still taking classes and I'm still working with groups and I hope to keep improving all the time.
Well, I think you will, and it's very inspirational. I think for a lot of people who have that desire to write, but they've never done it, and they're getting older,
Right.
so they just assume they'll never have that chance. Well,
Right,
you
right.
you just decided one day I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And you know what? So I started off with a group of people and we all started writing stories and sending it in for publication. And you know what? If you're a writer, you have to expect a lot of rejections, like a
Yeah.
lot of rejections. And I'm generally a sensitive person when it comes to things like that, but I didn't let it hold me back. Some people see the rejections and they're like, that's it,
Well,
done.
no, I completely get that. You got to have a little bit of fortitude
You do.
to,
You
to, to
do.
publish a book, because it's
Right.
and you got to have some toughness there.
Yeah.
And that's true with about anything you do, I suppose,
Yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
always going to have the obstacles, the negativity, all that stuff. And
Right.
if you're not mentally strong, you're not going to get through that stuff.
No, you're exactly right.
So you mentioned that the open contract challenge is back open.
I don't know. I don't know. It usually opens in March, but I haven't heard anything
I haven't
yet.
heard anything either. That's yeah, maybe I'm a little early. So maybe it's coming up.
Yeah, I think it's coming
March.
up
Yeah.
pretty soon.
Yeah. So this will be because I think you won in 21, maybe.
21.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And you were the second or third winner, right? At the time,
Um, I think I was the third.
I think maybe the third.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I assume we've had three since then.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so
And
that's
I'm very excited. I get to be a judge every year.
I know, I love that. That's one of the best
Yeah.
things about it is it does try to use previous winners going forward. And I like
Yeah, and it makes me so happy to know that I'm helping someone achieve their goals.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And it's can you give us just a little bit about what it is? I know we're a little early. They can look it up if they're interested. But talk a little bit
Yeah.
about what actually the open contract challenge is.
I mean, the Open Contract Challenge is this amazing opportunity where anybody could submit an idea for a book.
Yeah.
And then what they do is they pick out the best ideas, the best 10 ideas, and then they have you write like a couple of chapters of it. And then after that, they pick out the best 5 of those, and then they have you write a synopsis. Then they pick out the best 3 of those, and then they pick out the winner, second, and third place.
Yeah, I kind of like
But
it
the beauty
because
is like anybody can do it, and it's free.
right, right. And a lot of times that's the hard part is coming up with some money to get your
Yeah,
book
yeah,
out there. And that's what this does. But it also, like if you have a book written, then you're ready to go. You can go ahead and just kind of submit
right, right.
as
You
they
can,
request it.
yes,
But if you don't, it's a pretty good prompt to
yeah,
if you've got an idea,
absolutely,
but you haven't fleshed it out, that where you're submitting a little bit at a time, you could actually be
right,
writing as you go.
right, right.
And I
I
kind of
mean, that's
like
how
that.
it worked for me. I just had an idea in my head, and then when I passed the first, level, I got serious about writing.
Yeah. 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 That's a good motivator, I
It
think.
really is. Yeah. I mean, for
But,
me, I love being motivated that way.
well, you get each level that you succeed at, it gives you that motivation to kind of keep
Exactly.
going.
Right.
And, and it's not like it's, you have the winner, but just getting close is also pretty great because
Yeah,
they're
even
good.
second
They're all
place,
good books.
right. Second place gets a book published as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, yeah, you can't beat that.
Yeah, no, it's really hard to publish a book, really hard. And to find somebody that's going to help you out like that. I mean, they do the cover for you, they format it for you, they put it on Amazon for you. They make it so easy.
I know.
It's amazing.
One of the best things I think going out there for writers. It's
It is. It
really
is.
a
I
good
recommend it to
setup.
everybody who's thinking of, writing a book or who has written one already.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's such a great competition. Um,
Right, right.
but it's done in a very positive way.
It is.
And I know you judge Walter that's been on several times as involved here and there. It's got good people behind it,
It does. Yes.
and that makes a
I
big
think I think
difference.
he's still doing it. I think
I
he's
think
still
he is
doing it.
too. I
Yeah.
hadn't talked to him since last fall, but I got
Yeah. I
time
mean,
he was planning on it.
yeah, you can't work with a nicer person than him.
Oh my goodness, Walter Esselman, just the best.
Yes.
He's just the best. He's one of my favorite people, and he's been on 4 times. So you're one behind. You got to catch up.
I've actually watched it all 4 times. He's a funny guy.
I told him, I said, you've been on so much. I just made him his own playlist. I was like, I'll just put all your
Excellent.
interviews in one space. That'll make it easy.
Yeah. I mean, he's amazing.
He's a pretty nice guy. So what's next, Peggy? What book are you planning to work on next?
I really like working on stories.
Yeah,
So I think I'm going to have another book of short stories. So I've
I
written
love
about
the
5
short
already.
story.
Yeah, I've written 5 already, and I'll just keep continuing to write.
You think so? How many do you think you're going to need to finish the book? 10, maybe? Maybe you're
Well,
halfway.
these stories, so in this book, there's around 30 stories, but now I'm writing longer stories, so
Right.
there'll be fewer of them.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. So it wouldn't. Yeah, you pack the
Yeah,
previous book. It's packed, but yeah, I was thinking these are a little bit longer, so maybe half of what you had before.
right. But you know what? I like going to open mics and, reading some of the shorter stories. People seem to get a kick out of it.
No, I love it because yeah, you can read. That it's a great way if you're having trouble getting back into reading to get back into
Yeah,
reading
for
because
sure, for
you get
sure.
you're reading shorter stories, so you keep
Right,
that kind
right,
of you get an ending over and over again as you go through
right,
the book.
right. And some people are just so busy, they actually don't have time for more than 1 or 2 stories a
Right.
day.
That's right. Any hopes that some of these stories end up showing up in a different format? Maybe somebody says, "Hey, I kind of like to make that into something."
Well, that would be my dream. So far, nothing.
I would not be surprised. I think you've got several in this book that you could legitimately make into a movie or a TV series
Yeah, or an episode of Black Mirror.
or an episode of Black Mirror. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Actually, that wouldn't be. There's several that would fit
yeah,
well with that.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd love that. So if if you ever had something picked up where they were making what a movie series, whatever, out of it, would you want to be on set?
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
me too.
course. Yeah,
I was like, I won't cause any trouble. I won't give any
exactly.
notes.
I will be the most cooperative
I'll
person
sit
in
over
the
here in the
world.
corner and just watch.
Exactly, exactly. A
Because I
fly
could
on the
see they may
wall.
not want you if you're going to give a. Some people would want the notes, some people would not. So I'd be like, I'll sit over
Yeah,
here. If you got a question, ask me, but I won't bother you.
right. Well, I mean, wherever you go, they like to edit things and do it their own way. But you know what? I'm not a troublemaker. You're
Yeah, I
fine.
know. Me either. I'd be just like, I'm just happy to see it in any form.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, Peggy, thank you again for coming on. I always love it when we get a chance to talk. And I talk to a lot of authors, and I really try to be kind of selective because there's so many books out there. I love your
Yes,
writing.
yes.
I fell in love with the poetry, and I was excited about this book, and this it definitely lived up to it. It's been terrific.
Well, thank you so much. And I am discounting the ebooks for the entire month of March. A dollar
Oh,
99.
oh, that's so cheap.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No reason you can't read these now.
yeah. I just want to get it in the hands of people.
I love that. Well, I can tell you, all of your books, including this one, are in our local library because Brett's the librarian. So, so if you ever come through West Virginia, you're liable to see your books in the library if you stop by.
Thing.
Yeah, Brett always asks me. He says, send me because he has to do the ordering for the book. So I always send
Right,
him when I get the any of the open contract people, I always send him. So I'm like, there you go, send those.
right,
You can
right,
talk to them.
right,
So yeah,
right.
yeah, and he's got this Once Upon a Time machine. He's actually got it in the adult section, and then another copy in the kind of like the teenage section.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was pretty good too. I was like, because
Yeah,
he asked me,
yeah,
he said, would this work for young adults? And I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, you'd be fine with that. I think if I was a teenager, I'd love this book.
yeah. So,
So yeah, so
and
there's two copies there.
yeah, yeah. So there's something else that I'm working on right now. I hope I have a minute for it. So I wrote a poem about a cause that's very, very important to me.
Sure.
So if you don't mind,
Yeah, let's hear it.
it's called Spitting for Cancer.
Okay. Okay. I know
Okay.
that's a cause close to your heart.
So I spit in a tube for breast cancer research to share my DNA with the Rutgers University scientists who want to understand why so many young women are being diagnosed with what used to be an older woman's disease. I spit in a tube for my two daughters and my two granddaughters who are more likely to get this dreaded disease in their lifetimes than I am. And it makes me sick to think one day my precious children might be sick. I spit in the face of this current administration, a group of obscenely rich men who are cutting funding for cancer research, who are cutting funding for Medicaid and Medicare recipients, the most vulnerable people,
Yeah.
while they, privileged like kings, receive their medical care from all the best doctors and all the best hospitals and all the best places without having to worry at all about whether they'll be able to afford their rent. I spit in a tube for women everywhere and pray that the researchers stay strong in the face of these budget cuts and crack the mysterious genetic code so that one day young women can wake up and have one less thing to be terrified of. And so Rutgers University is doing this study to find out why young women are getting breast cancer.
Right.
It's at a really alarming rate, and they think that it is something in their genes, like somehow their genes are being destroyed by something that's giving them this disease.
I
And
mean,
so
don't
I
you
am,
think it's probably stuff we're eating or putting into the environment?
Yes and yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So right now they have 4,500 people enrolled in this study, and they need about 5,500 more. All you have to do is spit in a tube. So it's Rutgers Genetics Coordinating Center. You just go online, you Google them, they send you a little cup to spit in, they give you the box that's self-addressed. You
Yeah.
just get it in the mail, and then you can help them figure out why so many young women are getting breast cancer.
Well, and that's just one step closer to maybe a cure at some point.
Exactly, exactly. That's the first step, finding out why, and then we can figure out what to do about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got close friends that have been through breast cancer. My mother had it back. She had it and went through chemo back in 1994, which was my wife at that time was pregnant with our first daughter. So my mother finished up chemo, and then my daughter was born right after that, and that kind of helped her to get through that. And my mother's still here.
Right,
It's been 31 years
right, right.
for free. But I know the impact it's had on her.
Right.
She's different now than she was before the cancer. And it's been 30
Yeah.
some years, and every
Right,
year
right.
when she goes to get those mammograms, it's upsetting to her, and she's scared to
Yeah,
go, even
sure,
though it's been
sure.
positive since, or negative, I guess, since. So I know how important that is for us to
Yeah.
figure out,
Yeah.
but it's
But
just
women,
devastating.
women in their 20s and 30s,
Yeah.
they don't even go for mammograms. So they
No.
don't always catch it. They don't always catch it in an early stage.
Yeah. No, I think that happens a lot, because a lot of times younger people, they don't think about that stuff till they get up in their 30s or 40s, or sometimes even
Yeah.
50.
In their 40s, like 40s. Yeah.
And that's pretty scary.
It is. It is. So I really hope some other women will, I would never talk about a thing that would cost people money, but this is absolutely free.
Yeah. Yeah. This one, yeah, that's, I'm so glad you brought that up, and good for you for writing a little bit about it. That's good.
Yeah, I just feel really strongly about it. My daughter's a genetic counselor.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so we talk
yeah.
about things like this all the time.
Yeah. How neat. That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah. How's the family taking to the writing? I know they were pretty supportive early on. Are they still on board?
Yes. So my older daughter, I always pass things by her first. She is my harshest critic.
Sure.
I mean, if there's something she doesn't like, she's like, Mom, I just don't like it. It's like, okay, you know what? I have to up my game. And then I pass it to my second daughter. And she's like, well, I think you could change a little bit here and a little bit there. And then I went through the publishing company called Glasswriter Publishing, and I had an editor,
Yeah.
and he was fantastic. Like any grammatical errors I made, he just fixed them right up.
Oh, that's terrific. Yeah, that's terrific. Very good. Well, Peggy, thank you so much. We'll be here for the next one when you get it out.
Okay.
But before I let you go, Peggy,
Mhm.
run through your website and your social media for us.
So Twitter and Instagram is at Peggy Sue 445.
Yep. Does 445 have a meaning?
It's my address.
Okay. Okay.
I
Well,
now
I've
in
got a
retrospect,
377 in mine, and as far as
yeah,
I
in
know, it has
retrospect, I
nothing.
wish I had come up with something a little bit more creative, but it's okay.
That's all right. I know once you do it, you're stuck.
Exactly. Exactly. And once I had it on Twitter, I thought, let me just use the same thing so people could find me all
That's right.
over. And
No,
even my website is Peggy Sue 445 at wixsite.com/my-site.
yeah, and it actually, if you start typing that stuff in, it comes up. It'll
It
pop up.
does. Even like if you just put my name in Google, it's the first thing that comes
It
up.
is. Yeah, it's not. It's not hard to find. And I've told you before, love the website. I think it's easy to navigate. Gives you a lot of
Thank you.
information. So yeah, it's really really good. Well, thank you so much, Peggy. Let's do this again in a
Thank you
few
so much
months.
for having me.
No, this has been fun. It's always easy having you on. That's a good interview because I enjoyed the material. So I was like, that's an
Thank you
easy.
so much.
All right, Peggy,
It
hold
means a
on.
lot.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
so welcome. I'm such a fan of Peggy's, and she's been on the show now 3 times, as we talked about, and she's just the best. I love her whole story. She's so inspiring. She came to writing late in life and has just absolutely killed it. She's unbelievable. We first had her on. She was doing poetry in her book Stumbling in CrazyTown. It's hilarious. That's what won her the open contract challenge. It's terrific. We have a playlist of all of our interviews with open contract challenge winners, so you can check that out. When if you're watching this interview, we'll also have a playlist of all of Peggy's other interviews, so you can also check that out. Her second book was The Big Indignity, which that one is my favorite, but just barely. I love that one. And then Once Upon a Time Machine, it's wonderful. I love the stories. It's almost like you're reading a book full of Twilight Zone, or I guess Black Mirror, is kind of the new Twilight Zone, but that type of story. A lot of her stories make you a little uneasy. They're thought provoking. I'm such a fan. I absolutely love those. Once Upon a Time Machine. It's out now. If you're watching for the whole month of March, you can get it for $1.99 in the audio book version. Myself, I prefer to have a copy in my hands. So I have no trouble, just purchasing a copy so I can hold. But a lot of people love just to read them. My wife reads on a laptop or a phone half time. So however you like to read it, make sure that you do yourself a favor and get the book. Worth your time. Worth your time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us. If you're finding us for the first time, so happy that you're here. Would love to have your support. Easy to do. It's free. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe. It's free, but it really does help us to continue to bring these terrific guests. Our website's meistercon.com. Today we put out episode 911. So we've been doing this for a little while. There's just about any TV show or movie that anybody is watching. We've probably talked to somebody from them. So if you got a favorite show or a favorite movie, check it out. Take a look. We've probably talked to somebody from the cast. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody.